In this video, I will be sharing with you 10 poorest countries in Africa in 2022. The largest number of poor people in the world live in Africa. The poorest of the poor live in abject poverty on a total income of less than $1 a day. We have ranked these countries in terms of GDP, gross domestic product per capita, the total economic production of the country divided by the number of people in the country. So not to waste much of your time, I present to you 10 poorest countries in Africa in 2022. Number 1. Burundi. Burundi is one of the poorest countries in Africa. The country has passed through a period of turbulence and war in the late 1990s. Burundi is a tiny, landlocked, densely populated country and deficient in natural resources. But the country's lack of legal protection for investment has discouraged business investors from coming to Burundi. Number 2. Central African Republic. The Central African Republic has endured decades of religious violence and civil war. The country has endured war that has lasted for almost 20 years. In 2013, the capital was taken over by rebel group. Citizens were driven out of their homes into refugee camp and then driven out of the refugee camp. Since 2016, UN peacekeeping troops have brought some stability to the country, and the World Bank has invested in small business development, but lawlessness, disease and lack of infrastructure cripple the economy. Number 3. Somalia. Somalia is one of the poorest countries in Africa. The country has become synonymous with violence, lawlessness and extreme poverty. About 43% of its population lives on less than $1 a day, and the leading industry of the country is livestock production. Number 4. Niger Republic. Niger Republic is one of the poorest countries in Africa. The country is trapped between armies of the Islamic State and Boko Haram, and the United Nations Development Index ranked Niger Republic as the poorest country on earth, simultaneously experiencing an explosion in its birth rate and a chronic drought that leaves over 2 million of its citizens in danger of starvation. Even in a good year, the United Nations says Niger Republic cannot feed itself. Number 5. Malawi. Malawi is one of the poorest countries in Africa. Over 70% of Malawians earn less than $1 per day. Most of Malawians' workers have jobs in agriculture, which is plagued by increasing common droughts and floods. Farmers are too poor to buy tractors and fertilizer. Number 6. Mozambique. Mozambique is one of the poorest countries in Africa. The country is trapped with war and conflict. Mozambique has invited troops from other African nations to fight its Islamic insurgency so that it can concentrate on recovering the $2 billion loan which was stolen by bad leaders in the country and thereby crippling the economy. Number 7. Liberia. Liberia is one of the poorest countries in Africa. Liberia was founded in 1820 as a refugee for former American slaves. It has come out of a horrific civil war under a woman-led government that rebuilt schools, hospitals, and roads that has been destroyed during the fighting. But an Ebola epidemic in 2014 and the completion of international aid program in 2017 have left the country to face its considerable economic challenges on its own. Number 8. South Sudan. South Sudan is one of the poorest countries in Africa. The economy of the country is one of the most underdeveloped in the world. It has one of the world's highest infant mortality rates and one of the world's highest rates of illiteracy in women. It has one of the youngest population in the world, with over 40% of its population under the age of 14, and 90% of its population lives on less than $1 per day. Number 9. Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is one of the poorest countries in Africa. The country has been devastated by civil war and the Ebola epidemic. Unlike Liberia, Sierra Leone has also been plagued by natural disasters, especially mudslides. 60% of the population is engaged in subsistence farming. Number 10. Madagascar. Madagascar is one of the poorest countries in Africa. Over 2 million people in Madagascar are in danger of imminent starvation due to a prolonged drought. Relative bright spots in Madagascar economy include its nickel mine, textile production and fisheries. Madagascar, which was ranked as one of the most spectacular centers of biodiversity and 90% of its wildlife found nowhere else on the planet, now has vast area of complete destruction of the landscape by drought and fires.